Hello, everyone. This is Michael Paget, and this is my Leading Change research paper presentation on the Navy, highlighting the programs and business practices changed pre 1991 to after. The prime mover in the change was the Talhook Incident of 1991, where U.S. Navy Marine Corps officers and defense contractors committed sexual harassment and sexual assault at the U.S. Navy's Talhook Symposium in Las Vegas on September 5th through 7th, 1991. This scandal would have implications that were far reaching and were still felt in the fleet today, especially in the 21st century. Numerous people's careers were destroyed as a result of the scandal, from the attendees to the Chief of Naval Operations himself. Not immediately relieved of command, but this would be his final tour in the Navy. Before Admiral Kelso would retire, he would be one of the leading change agents for the great and very positive changes to come. Organizational change with a little bit of community. What I mean by this is the organization of the Navy in itself is a community. Every commander unit is a small part of an enormous family, and if one is affected, the community as a whole changes the organization. The change was moving from one generational way of thinking to a more wholesaler package, especially for newer sailors and Marines to discontinue their tribal ways that are usually learned behaviors. The Navy was already in an identity shift. This was just another area getting an overhaul. WTF was my response whenever I learned of this incident. How is this something that was a reactionary measurement? This was responding, reacting, and adapting to a horrible event, but also a past that needed to be guided in a new direction to prevent further incidents. Through strategic, transformational, shared, and many other styles were the primary methods of leadership used to begin the change caused by the Talhook incident. These are highlighted because they involve direct participation by the leaders and followers to accomplish this goal. A lot of leadership involved was action at the highest levels, disseminating the intended change down and giving commands ownership of how to implement the change. After a time, it became everyone's responsibility to prevent incidents, essentially giving them the keys to success. The ideals of Sumac Causeway translate well into this change. The Navy wanted to put an emphasis on good living, increased social responsibility, and really being more aware of the well being of individuals and their community as a whole. The Navy and military as a whole does not go through a typical unfreeze, change, refreeze process of praxis. It is more of an unfreeze, deliberate on a desired outcome, change and refreeze, go back and reanalyze the change, and make adjustments as necessary. During this unfreezing stage, the Navy identified that there was a lack of programs, policies, and personnel needed to educate and provide much needed support to individual leadership prepared for the leadership shift by implementing new results and instructions. Naval chains of commands were instructed to be prepared to distribute information to the commands, informing them to prepare their personnel for the changes to come. Unlike many other organizations and communities, the military does not request change, but demands it. The Navy took inventory of existing programs and started the modification and implementation process to move forward. Unfreezing the events meant participants at Tailhook were punished, sexual assault prevention and response coordinators were created and implemented at commands. Annual trainings were modified and held more regularly, and better services and resources were provided to the military as a whole. Admiral Kelso, Chief of Naval Operations at the time, the most of what was left of his career, he made many positive changes for those under his leadership and for future generations of sailors. Implementing more programs and sources of education. Almost every command would have a sexual assault prevention response coordinator, and if they didn't, the base would have an overall representative to assist those in need. Annual training, indoctrination, and many other forms of getting the messages across were implemented in an attempt to reduce the chances of future incidents like this and individual cases. One of the most impactful tools Admiral Kelso assisted in creating was the Sailor's Creed. It was created to remind everyone in the Navy, from the newest recruit to himself at the top, you are a sailor first before you are a leader, a mechanic, or any position you hold. This was created to help strengthen the organization and the community.